From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those championing market growth and anchoring the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. I'm Mike Maxson. That's Brandon Gray. And Brandon just said it before we got on here. There's no guest this week. It's just me and him, and I'm kind of wondering what to do about it. I feel lame now, man. Like we don't got someone really smart to talk about stuff.
We brought in two heavy hitters
Back to back.
back to back. So if you haven't listened to the prior two episodes where we got Bob Ruffalo and Aaron Keith on, you need to go back and listen to those. Man, they gave some nuggets. So good stuff there. But yeah, I think we're going to chat a little bit about something we haven't talked about in several months, partially because there just hadn't been a lot around this topic to talk about. And then two, we kind of went through the Know to Grow campaign. We also went through the Great Labor Reset campaigns. Those are great topics, series you might call them, that you might want to listen to on the previous episodes. We got another one we're going to kick off here in a couple weeks. That'll be a little bit of a mini series, so looking forward to that. But yeah, we're going to do a media mash.
Yeah, talk about stuff going on. A lot of economic stuff. And again, we're not economists or anything. It's just interesting to talk about a little bit of our opinion, a little bit of what we see. But, I think there's good stuff to go through sometimes, these articles, little nuggets to take away. Sometimes it's a little gloom and doom. Sometimes I think it's more just about awareness of what's going on. And a couple of things to note before we get through these articles, a couple of things that are going to ring true that are still there. Rising prices, AI, consumer sentiment, jobs, all these things right now that really are on top of mind for the entrepreneur out there. We're going to hit in this episode with some of the things we're going to talk about. So,
yeah, we're going to tell you what to do about it.
Yeah.
Hey, you can look at the headlines. That's not hard. What do you do about it? To me, that's where we want to provide some value, and we'll take some examples from some of our clients that are making progress. So should be fun.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So the first one that I pulled to look at, and again, I like the Wall Street Journal. It's where, you can, especially if you go into the sub like categories under there, not just the front page, but this is by Matt Grossman here, published on August 14th. Weak retail sales number adds to softening economic data. And so what this was really based on was the July jobs report, which we were about 23K lost in July. And now there is some things that, you got to think of is one is, we had the World Cup going on. You've had the Iran conflict. You've had some scares about that causing inflation or more inflation in this environment. And so that the retail sales coming down. We also had, I know this is crazy, but it's huge. Amazon Prime month was in June. Okay. So it's not crazy that July would stop, and we all hit up Prime month or whatever it was there. So there's some interesting tidbits here. One thing to note in this article that Matt points out is the existence of inflation and the existence of continued price increases that are still very much present. And how long are the consumers going to continue? Now, we have said that a lot, that, I know I have, like, hey, how much longer are we going to pay $7 for a box of cereal? And here I am still buying the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. All right. So I don't know, Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, Mike. Well, I think it's important to keep a little bit of context in place. And so the best example I can give is if you're talking about the weather, all right, and you say, man, it has been really, really raining. It's been a wet summer. Well, is that context based upon the last week to where it rained every day? Or is that based on the past 2 months to where you might be at average rainfall totals? Or is it based upon the last 6 months where you might be still in a drought? So, I mean, depending upon the time frame and the context around it kind of drives your view of things. And if there's one thing we know about our current society and what have you, is that people love a headline. And it many times takes out of the context as to what's really kind of going on at a higher level. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because I'm telling you, you can go out and look at these headlines, and one of them is going to tell you, just like Mike said, hey, we got softening retail sales. Okay. Well, for July, but where are we so far this year compared to last year? Okay. How's that compared to the year before? So you got to kind of look at some context. Now, that article in particular is right in line to what the overall context is, which for a couple of years now, we've been talking about this. Consumer spending is still very much throttled. There is a lack of discretionary spending taking place in the market. You've heard us talk about the haves and the have-nots, the K-shaped economy, all those kind of things, and they all point back toward that. I think Mike makes some great points as to, if you look at it in a short time period, if you just compare June to July, what you see taking place there was some of the things that maybe gave us a little bit of a boost in June. So how does this apply to the entrepreneur? What do you do about it? What have you? Well, like I said, look at the overall context. I'm going to give you a little bit of conflicting data to this, and conflicting, using that term lightly here. Looking at our simple numbers 100 company model, we're continuing to make some progress. Top line still moving a little bit. Now, if you look at it for the past 3 months, we're only up like 5.4% from same time last year, which is not very much. It's pretty tight. So if nothing else, I think, the environment is right in line for the most part to the overall theme, that where there is growth, it is still somewhat isolated. The general economy isn't necessarily moving whenever you look at consumer spending. And it's tough. So no, that's not new news. We've all known that. Now, what we're seeing is that we have now, I'll count them real quick here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 periods in the simple numbers 100 company model where profitability has increased, 5 in a row. So Mike, what does that say to you about a trend?
Nah, it sounds like that's a trend. It sounds like it's a trend. I mean, for five in a row is pretty good. I will say this, Brandon, though. I will say this. So when it comes to spending, I do think, though, that we've just kind of accepted it.
Yes.
And, I mean, I'm not saying I don't watch my money, but I haven't like stopped buying what I need to buy for the most part of things. I mean, and I think in America, we are a debtor nation. We love that credit card. People just aren't going to stop just to stop. And so our willingness to pay is continued to show through. And I don't think that's scared any companies from continuing to raise prices and anything else, which goes back to our clients or people listening or entrepreneurs out there. You still got to raise. Everyone's going to continue to raise on use, is what I'm saying. So make sure that you look at the market and adjust accordingly.
Maybe 2 data points along that. So, well, first about the trend, we loosely hold to if you have 3 months of consecutive progress, that'll constitute a trend. So we do have a little bit of a trend. Now, how that trend's happening, we're going to talk a little bit more as we kind of go through things today. But two other data points relative to what Mike was saying. So, had an experience this weekend, Mike. I went and bought a new recliner.
Oh yeah, that is all you, Grandpa.
You got to have one of those at the house. And so, one of the first things that the gentleman working the floor told me when I come in, we have 12 months same as cash, same price, 12 months same as cash. Very first thing. So it tells me what, he's obviously been coached to say that. That's obviously a big selling point. Secondly, we have a client that has an online retail presence, and the product they sell is, many of them can be above $1,000. Excuse me. So it's fairly expensive. I mean, it's not something you just go on a whim about. So 2 months ago, they added the feature that you've seen on Amazon to where you can now pay for this in 6 monthly installments. And a nearly doubling of the online products that they were selling. by offering that financing option. So to Mike's point, the consumer's probably going to still spend. They're likely going to finance it as far as that part goes. The discretionary spend probably is still a little hampered. And here, Mike hit on one of the keys. One is be strategic about your price increases, because there might be services or products that you offer to where, you got to go up a point or two. There might be others to where you can't. So avoid the blanket, but do look at specific items and possibly the room that you have there to make a little bit of an increase. The other thing that's really shining, I know we're going to talk about this here in just a second when it comes to the jobs report. The progress being made in the 100 company model is not because of top line. It's because entrepreneurs are becoming better operators. They're squeezing a little bit more margin out. They're focusing on the products and services that bring the best margins. They're controlling their spend. OpEx is pretty flat in an inflationary environment. And they're squeezing a little bit of profit. So there has been this acceptance of the marketplace is what it is. How do I adjust? I got to be better at operations, and that's what we're seeing. So
if they hired me tomorrow and someone's like, "Hey, how do you think the economy moves?" It moves when people buy stuff.
Yeah.
Like food, gas, like we're all going to buy it. I mean, I got to go to work or I got to drive somewhere. It's just the way it is. Got to eat. But the economy moves when people buy stuff. And so I like the retail stuff. I like, when anytime there's information on retail, because, when people are out buying stuff, look at Amazon's Prime Month. Is that powerful that you included in economic data because people are just buying stuff? And that's outside of your normal thing. I mean, I know when they do tax-free school weekend here, or they did a tax-free weekend a couple years ago, and it was like the sale of TVs was through the roof, like people going out and buying TVs, like they bought stuff.
You look at the consumer behavior, and it is when there is opportunity, the consumer buys a sale, a promotion, tax-free, Prime Day, whatever it may be. And then they pause, they recover. So that's part of the reason why July goes down is everybody spent all their extra money in June. So
World Cup was big though too, man. That World Cup brought a lot of stuff here in terms of economic impact. That was some money being passed around on that one. Lots of.
Let's go to the next one, Mike.
Yeah, I like this one. I tried to make it flow in terms of jobs and operations and money to try to make it flow a little bit. And the next one we are looking at is this one's by the CME Group. Is AI making inflation worse or better? This is an interesting one. So let me just set the stage here with this AI stuff. So first of all, the data center craze, if you aren't hearing about this, is insane. And let me give you an example. It's massively driven earnings because now a lot of the major players out there are now putting assets on their balance sheet. Google, Apple, some of these companies were not asset rich, meaning that they just were, Google was search. Now they're spending money on data centers, actually have a portfolio now of buildings and stuff that they're putting in. So it's helped really drive earnings through the capital spend going on, which the economy likes, right? Or the market likes. And so in that process, those investments going in, the money being spent has also helped drive up prices a little bit because it's got to be paid for. Now, at the same time, you're going to have that in the short term, but the idea is that once this AI gets going, is that it's going to be deflationary because it'll make, like Brandon said, it'll make entrepreneurs more efficient, run better, and things like that. So, take it for what it is. But as of right now, that spending has helped the economy, but it's a lot of money flowing around. And when companies got to spend money, they need it from somewhere. And you and me is it.
Yeah, we mentioned this a couple of episodes ago, this new term called AI inflation. And at that point in time, it was more so just, I wouldn't say theoretical, because you had one of the things that triggered it was Apple actually increasing the price of their iPhone unexpectedly or ahead of schedule because the components were more expensive. I had a client telling me 2 weeks ago they were trying to buy a new laptop, and they were appalled by how much this basic laptop was going to cost them. I mean, it was up 30-40% from what they expected to pay based on history. And it's because, processors are more expensive. The chips are more expensive. The circuit boards are more expensive. Everything that has that component that would be impacted by data center AI, supply and demand, as Mike said, is driving it up. As to the if we did not have data center build right now and AI investment going on, the economy would probably look really rough. It's definitely holding it up. We don't need that bubble to pop. As to long term, what are the implications? I think the jury's still out a little bit on that. There was an interesting report that I read last week, and this is not labor efficiency. Okay, wish it was labor efficiency, but it's probably as close as you're going to get based upon just what the general public looks at. It was revenue per employee, and they did a study of the firms who had heavy AI usage versus the ones that did not, and there was no change in revenue per employee. Now, there was a change in profitability because, sure, it's making things more efficient. But that being said, long term and kind of where it goes, you haven't seen it shift just yet to where there have been just massive savings across the boards because people are implementing AI. If anything, we're going to keep our team the same labor spend, and we're just going to process and do more. Now, eventually you'll have to add as far as that part goes, but you're just not seeing it go, okay, hey, we saved $500,000 on payroll because we used AI. Generally speaking, that has not been the case.
No.
Hey, will it get there? Most likely. We've talked a little bit before about the implementation of AI as the bottleneck. It's not so much the usage or the availability, the computing power of AI. Alan Pence, I'm going to give him a shout out. Small Business Mentor. That's his newsletter. You want to learn about AI. And by the way, Alan's going to be speaking at the Simple Numbers Summit.
Man, that's a shameless plug, man.
November 9th through 11th in Austin, Texas. Go to simplenumbersummit.com. Discount codes podcast 26. More on that later. But Alan has he's bleeding edge on this, and he the last couple of weeks he's made some interesting points. You design all these agents and bots and what have you to create efficiency. Who manages the agents whenever something goes wrong? You got 20 agents that are all handing stuff off to each other and doing jobs and work, and then something breaks. Which one broke? What process broke? And so you're now kind of starting to see that's actually probably a position that you need to have in your company, is who's going to manage all the agents, figure all that out. So nonetheless, as it relates to inflation and what have you there, yes, buy the computer now. Buy anything that's going to have a computing component in it now, because it's only going to go up more.
Yeah, well, until them agents like that one I read about that decided to shut the system down or hack itself, whatever it did. Remember, got in, got out, or it escaped or whatever, that one article. I can't remember what it was. I should have brought that one up where it got mad and they tried to shut it down and it somehow jumped and cloned itself or whatever it did.
It's pretty cool to look at lions in the zoo, but as soon as one of them gets out, you got a problem on your hand.
Hey, I would like to let the next Terminator know I got a bunch of green tips and I'm ready. So, hey, another good thing real quick about this article I thought was interesting here. It started getting more into the inflation. You got to check it out. It's a good one. The top 10% of consumers spend about 50% of the money that are driving the consumer spending higher. But for the great majority of people, the median consumer spending has moved sideways because, for the most part, a great majority of our population over the last decade has been flat wages, right? We haven't really had a whole lot of wage growth, and so that was interesting too. That there's a lot of that, and so the wealthier have loaded up on AI portfolios and investing. And so this article really gets into it. I mean, we don't have enough time to do it here, but check that article out. It real quick just before we get to the next one, because I want to move on to that one. Is AI making inflation better or worse? Really good read as it gets deeper in there in terms of wages and things like that. So I just wanted to make that point before we.
One little final point on that: know your customer.
Yeah.
And how you need to effectively reach them. I'll tell you another data point in the 100 company model. We have seen commercial services become the darling. And if you go back and listen to our discussions from this time last year, we were talking more about home services. Now, not to say home services have done bad. They're still really great, still really good. But what you have seen is that the ability to effectively market for the home services industry has changed substantially. It's gotten much more expensive. It's still a necessity, but consumers are somewhat deferring to the least expensive option of the necessity. And you're not seeing the same pressures with commercial services. So, they're much more likely to be relationship-based, outcome-based, value-driven. The marketing hurdle's not necessarily there. So, I think that's just a good example. Like, I know your customer in terms of, okay, who are we going after? Because that's going to many times drive everything from pricing, marketing technique, messaging, and ultimately profitability.
Yeah, great point. Great point. All right, last one here. The jobless boom has arrived. This one's by, is that Greg Ip? I'm sorry, Greg, if I messed up your name. But the jobless boom has arrived. The stock market thinks the economy is accelerating. Don't expect jobs to flow. Let me tell you something, what I have learned over the years about the stock market and things. The stock market does not follow financial logic. It follows the movement of money. So if it's good for money, it's going to like it, despite it might be bad for the rest of us. This is one of those things. And so the market is accelerating. And there's some interesting takes in this article. Like, for example, are we in a bubble? Right? Stock prices typically go up faster than earnings, inflating valuations. But in the last year, earnings have risen faster than prices. Guess who? Amazon, Alphabet, which is Google. And so we got AI, which is driving demand for cloud storage, computer chips, tariff refunds. All of this is looking like, hey, there's this big growth going on in the economy, but there are really several factors that doesn't necessarily lead into, oh, hey, everyone's going to be hiring, everything like that. In addition to that, we also, back to the AI spending in data centers and things like that, have propelled earnings with the spending. So we've had an economy that's really gone through the Iran war, tariffs, inflation, and it's just kept moving. And despite that, does not equal that everyone's going to be hiring and there's going to be all kinds of action going on in the market from a job growth standpoint. So I like this article as identifying that, hey, just because earnings and the market seems to be accelerating and the S&P looks great, doesn't actually mean that it's going to be good for you all out there magically like it was during COVID and things like that.
So here's my take on the job market. It's a market of quality, not quantity. Back to what we said earlier about the 100 company model. The best operators are the ones right now that are finding profitability. Okay. Well, if I want to be a really good operator, what I got to have? I got to have a really good team. And so you're seeing folks, when they're replacing, especially team members that maybe are marginal, they're spending a little extra to go get the next level of team member. They're stepping up their game, and the expectation is not that next level completes the same amount of work at the same level of quality. It's that it's exponential. They do 20, 30% more, even though you might only be paying them 5 or 10% more than the previous person. So definitely seeing people kind of go, we're going to move to quality. We're really being cautious about hiring. We're digging deep. We're going to make sure as much as possible that we're finding quality, as opposed to 2 years ago, it was all about quantity. I just got to have warm bodies, kind of fog them in and get in. You're also seeing for college grads, high school grads going into trades and what have you, much more difficult job market to enter into. And I've had several recent grads mention to me, hey, I'm not sure about this. There's just not a lot out there. And then you put it all together with AI, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, AI is doing a lot of the things that entry-level workers were doing. So that's probably compounding the problem. Consumer spending isn't overall huge, and so businesses aren't growing. They're not looking to add quantity. So it's a tough market when it comes to that. Now, I do think there's an opportunity here. For entrepreneurs, there is a massive opportunity to upgrade your team and really kind of take it to the next level in terms of experience, know-how, the way they deal with clients and customers. You can find some true high performers in this marketplace, and they're not overly expensive because wage inflation's been pretty small, especially for, kind of middle to upper level roles. So I think it is a time that you want to look at your team and kind of go, okay, do we have quantity or do we have quality? Can I potentially top grade, is the term I like to use there, the talent level that we have right now, and keep in the back of your mind, how adept is this person going to be in working in an AI environment? Because that's likely where most folks are moving to. So I got to have the horsepower to make it happen.
Hey, in the beginning of this podcast, you said something about a trend. What was that trend you talked?
Revenue growth in the 100 company model and profitability growth in the 100 company model. Those are the two. The revenue growth.
How many straight months?
5.
Man. Quote from the article. This brings us to the jobless part of the jobless boom. We learned last week that total payroll shrank in July. The 5th time in the past 12 months. Private payroll growth averaged over 50,000 per month last year. These sorts of trends are virtually unprecedented outside recessions. Man.
Maybe there's a correlation.
Maybe, or it could just be a coincidence, but I don't believe in them. I've had way too much bad stuff happen for that.
So you kind of put a bow on all these things. Let's get back to kind of what do you do as an entrepreneur? So, kind of given the environment, we've laid a few of these things out here. One is don't count on the market to come save you. It's not going to happen unless you're in just a real niche, and even within a niche, it's probably the market the phone's just not going to magically start ringing. Right. So that said, I've got to be really good at operations. I've got to have and we've talked about this before. I got to have a really strong and compelling competitive advantage. I've got to make sure that I am focused on my highest margin products and services. I didn't say highest revenue, highest margin. We make the most money on. I've got to keep an ear to the ground around tweaks to pricing, because inflation, as Mike mentioned, still very much present. It's not going away anytime soon. I've got to make sure my team is able to perform at the highest level, and not just occasionally, all the time. So y'all heard us talk about David McClaskey. David's been a guest here in his works that he did with Pal Sudden Service up in Tennessee, drive-through hamburger, hot dog, fast food place that is 3 times more accurate and 3 times faster than Chick-fil-A. Yeah, think on that one for a little while. So here's how they define that high performance. I had to set up who I was talking about here. Here's how they define that high performance. Can you do a task with 100% accuracy at 100% volume? So I got to have the two together. You can't just be good whenever we're slower. You can't be mediocre whenever we're fast, when things are moving fast. You got to be at the top of your game at 100% delivery at 100% volume. And to me, that there's no better identifier there. What does an A player look like? Obviously, culture and what have you fits. They got to do those two things. And so you got to coach your team, develop your team, hire the expertise that you need. And at the same time, because profitability isn't super strong, if I'm adding to team, I'm probably removing some team, right? Along the way. I got to juggle all of those balls at once right now. And if you do that, you'll be profitable. So, I wouldn't say I'm bullish by any means, but I do feel for the first time in quite some time, and this could change before this podcast is released. Okay. But I do feel like we kind of know what the landscape looks like and that there's not a ton of outside noise that's impacting us. Like I said, that could change between now and when this is released on Thursday. There could be a headline come through, but we know what the tariff situation looks like. We know what inflation looks like. We know what's going on in the Middle East. We know what the mindset of the consumer is. We know what the labor market looks like. Okay, finally, we kind of got an idea of what it looks like. And the great thing about entrepreneurs is if they know the rules, they can go win the game. The worst thing is when the rules just keep changing on you. So I feel like we're in a position to where if you can be a really strong operator, we're not talking 2021, 2022 here. Okay, we're not talking about that kind of profitability, but I feel like we can kind of squeeze a little bit out.
Yeah, and for me, this all seems familiar. For me, I felt like always prices were always going up. I don't think this is like a new thing. I'm smart enough to know that my bills have never gotten cheaper along the way, right?
Well, you can have kids too.
So yeah, that's true. That was a problem. Yeah, I mean, not a problem. No, they're a blessing. Yeah, take that. Just as spending them on them. But guess what? We're, surprised. We're war in the Middle East a little bit. I mean, when's that ever happened? To me, I think some of these headlines, while we talk about them and just make you aware, we've all been experiencing it for a while to some degree into some area of this, and a lot of you have done just fine. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs can sometimes get caught up in that rather than worrying about how they can affect it. And I just think, when you see the market tighten or people are spending a little differently, you just might have to be better at marketing and telling people about it and things like that. So for me, a lot of this is, it looks to me more of the same, but just a different flavor.
And I'll give simple numbers, a shameless plug here. This is one of the things that's a little bit different about simple numbers than other folks out there. We got a pretty good pulse of what's going on in the marketplace. We're not perfect, but if you go through a couple hundred calls in a month, you kind of get an idea of what's taking place. And so you want to have that context in place. It's the very first thing when we talk about, the kind of the simple numbers process, what's going on in the marketplace. You want to have that context in place as you make plans, decisions, and what have you. And so kind of on the fence about, hey, should I engage simple numbers? This is just an example of when we get on the call with you, we're going to talk about the market, what it relates to your specific business, your specific market as well, get some insights, and then compare that to what we're seeing and hearing with other clients. And then we can kind of look and go, all right, guys, here's what you're saying. Here's the marketplace. Here's the landscape. These are the tactics you should deploy based on, I don't know how many years we've been doing this, but a long time, and hundreds, if not thousands, of other data points. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll get it done. Come see us, come talk to us. Happy to help. But you all make it through. Just keep listening to Simple Numbers Podcast. We'll help you out.
we're from a distance. We're going to hold your hand.
That's right.
It kind of got us through.
Any shameless plugs left?
I was going to say, speaking of holding your hand, November 9th through 11th. Y'all might be tired of hearing about it, but it is the Simple Number Summit. I'll go ahead and tell you guys this. This is a little ahead of what you're going to be seeing on social media and some other places. The promotions are about to end. Okay? We're about to turn those suckers off. So the Podcast 26 promotion, some of the others that we've had out there about summer and what have you, those are about to come to an end. And so if you want to save some money, and we want you to save some money, you need to go ahead and book your seat at that summit, because the prices are going to go to just normal listed prices. As we get a little bit closer to the event, it's event 101, right? You get a little bit closer, the price things go up. That's going to happen. So go ahead and lock it in. November 9th through 11th, go to the website, simplenumbersummit.com. You're going to read about everything, learn about everything that's there. If you got questions like, hey, should I go or not? Hit us up. Our emails are on our website. We're on LinkedIn. We're easy to find. Just holler at us and we'll shoot you straight. If we think it's going to be great for your business, we'll tell you. And if we think, hey, it may not be a fit for you, we'll let you know. Okay. But just know those discounts are about to go away.
Love it. Well, awesome. Well, for Brandon, I'm Mike, and I hope you all enjoyed that. We will catch you next week.
See y'all.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. This podcast is brought to you by CRI Simple Numbers LLC, a division of CRI Capital Group LLC, and a subsidiary of CRI Advisors LLC. CRI is the trusted brand under which Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC, the CPA firm, and CRI Advisors LLC, along with its subsidiaries, deliver professional services. Please note, Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC is a licensed independent CPA firm offering attest services, whereas CRI Advisors LLC and its subsidiaries specialize in providing tax and business consulting services. These entities operate within an alternative practice structure as defined by the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct and comply fully with applicable laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ready to simplify your business finances and drive growth? Explore valuable resources, books, and tools designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses at simplenumberscri.com.